Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Dr. Meyer. Good morning, Mr. Simon Sidiki. And welcome to the second edition of our webinar series. This edition is centered on successful management of transformation projects. Now, we'll be receiving for this session two speakers, Dr. Meyer from South Africa and Mr. Simu from United Arab Emirates. I will leave each speaker first of all presenting himself for 30 seconds or 1 minute maximum. And after that, he'll go ahead with his talk for 15 minutes before taking the other speakers, and after that coming for question and answer on the topic of the day. So now I'm first of all sorry for the time delay we took for some material disturbances, and our presentations, as you are mostly focused on English languages, after each presentation, I will try to do a small summary or small translation in French for our French audiences, so that they can also be aware of what we'll be discussing today. Bonjour, I'm doing a little talk in French. Bonjour à tous les participants pour la deuxième session de notre série des webinaires d'aujourd'hui. La session d'aujourd'hui portera sur le management à succès des projets de transformation. Nous recevons aujourd'hui deux intervenants, le Dr Meyer qui est basé en Afrique du Sud et M. Simou Sidiki qui est basé aux Émirats arabes. Suivre sur le live stream diffusé sur YouTube pour ceux qui ont reçu le lien YouTube pour suivre le live stream. Et nous nous excusons déjà pour quelques difficultés techniques qui nous ont causé ce léger retard que nous accusons aujourd'hui. Sur ce, nous alternerons dans les échanges, tantôt en français, tantôt en anglais. Étant donné que nos intervenants sont essentiellement anglophones, anglo-saxons, j'assurerai autant que possible la synthèse et les traductions en français pour notre audience francophone. Sur ce, now, Dr. Meyer, first of all, I give you the floor to, first of all, in 30 seconds, 1 minute maximum, presenting yourself, your background, and after that, you will go ahead for your presentation, for 15-minute presentation for your topic, before going to the other speaker for his speech also. You have the floor, Dr. Meyer.
Okay, thank you, Terry, and thank you for the opportunity of joining all of you here today. It's really a great honor and privilege for me to join you all the way from Cape Town, South Africa, where we're talking about this very important topic of transformation. I have been involved as an academic at different universities, also as a consultant, as a practitioner, a change management and people development practitioner in business. And then I also joined the professional body for human resource management in South Africa called the South African Board for People Practices, where I was the CEO. And over the last 2 years, I've been the chairman of the board since I've in Stellenbosch University, where I'm responsible for strategic human resource management. So my whole career has been about people and making people successful in business and helping people to adapt to all the change that is and transformation that is taking place in business and society. So I think we've seen some fantastic changes, also some difficult changes for all of us over the last 6 months, in particular with COVID. I'm glad that you also had that talk the previous time. Transformation is ongoing. So therefore today I just want to share with you our experiences regarding transformation and change that is so important for us to focus on when it comes to business, society, and government that we are focusing on these days. Okay, so I've got a couple of slides that I am going to share with you. just for the purpose of focusing on the key aspects of transformation in business. Okay, so in essence, my talk is about three main things today, and that is the importance of leadership, change, and risk management standards in ensuring effective business transformation. And just learning from the COVID pandemic, the main point of departure for me is if we think from a risk perspective, what we have seen over the last 6 months globally is, for the first time ever, the whole world has come to a standstill because of a people risk, which in essence was a health and wellness risk in our countries and in society at large. And that's why the whole world is on a standstill. So on the one hand, it's sad that we had to go through all this pain and so many people dying. But on the other hand, it's a reality that for the first time ever, we realize the importance of people and why it is so critical for us to really focus on people. And that's why I'm highlighting leadership, change, and risk management in ensuring effective business transformation. But the word standards is very important, because I think we've got standards in other areas of society. We've got standards for how we need to behave on the roads. We've got standards for how hospitals and airlines should operate. But we don't always have standards on how we need to deal with people. And that is the essence of what I'm going to talk with you briefly about the next couple of minutes. Friendly, warm, and kind greetings from. If any of you haven't been to South Africa, please come and visit. It's a land of diversity. It's a country where there are so many beautiful places to see. But in essence, it's again about people, about leadership, about changes that we're facing also in the environment and in the society at large. In essence, my most important focus today is the people factor as a key to transformation in business, government, and society. The need for transformation within organizations, the importance of having human resource standards in our countries and also globally. Fortunately, the ISO project is running, so there will be international standards for human resource management. But in South Africa, we have done some work around HR standards, and I will share some highlights of that work with you to perhaps share some guidelines for transformation. Risk is very important, and for the purpose of risk, we've created a HR risk management standard that I will show you today. Leadership is key in any transformation, and therefore I will highlight that one, and then I will also just briefly talk about change management standard. But transformation cannot work if we don't focus on change in our business and getting that change management right in a professional way. And when my 15 minutes is up, I will do the conclusion for you. Now, as a professional, while I say to you, I work for a university where I teach HR strategy, as in my role as chair of the board for people practices, we have championed people as the most important aspect of business. And that's why we call our overall strategy People Factor Strategy 2020-30. That, of course, deals with a lot of issues. But ultimately, it's putting people at the center of business and ensuring that transformation is about people changing their behavior. Just look at how all of us have changed our behavior in COVID overnight. In terms of hygiene practices, and we've managed to do that to a great extent. But still, there's a lot of hard work that lies ahead over the next 6 months and the next 2 years, in fact, for us to think differently about how we look after our people. Now, to put people at the center of business, in South Africa, we have created what we call national HR standards that cover 13 areas of HR aspects, ranging right from the business strategy alignment, from strategy to talent to risk. And today I want to talk a little bit about risk, because I think we're moving through a phase of major risk, to workforce planning, to training, to performance, to reward, to wellness, to employment relations, organization development, technology, service delivery, and measurement. And these 13 areas is what good human resource practice in organizations are doing for companies. Okay, and for today, I'm going to highlight the one on organization development, because that one really speaks to the type of changes that we need to put in place in our businesses. Now, if I just extract for you the standard on organization development, you will see that any transformation process starts with the purpose of the organization, where you say to yourself, why is my business here? And if you can answer the question, why my business is here, you must design your business for success. You must have a structure. You must have roles and responsibility and accountabilities of what people will do. But that's the easy part, because the next thing is you must get your employees to really work together and to have the right skills. You continuously need to diagnose the situation, define your outcomes and the interventions you need to implement, your priorities and the outputs that you need to monitor. And as part of all that process, you need to have certain processes, stakeholders, and communicate with your stakeholders continuously as part of the enablers of ensuring that your business is effective. Now, if these building blocks are not in place, any transformation initiative will in your business. And therefore, it is so important to have all these aspects very well embedded in your organization. As we've all learned over the last 6 months, is things do go wrong in business. You have good intentions to have a good business strategy, but there are certain risks that make it difficult for you to focus on your business objectives. And therefore, we've created a standard, what we call the HR risk management standard. Some countries prefer to talk about people risk, but it's the same thing, is you've got people risks in your organization. So we're suggesting that companies look at your overall organization management structures and processes. You identify the impact of your different HR risks, and from that you develop a map of all the people issues affecting your business. You then need to decide on your risk tolerance for each one of these risks. How many accidents will you tolerate in the business? How many customer complaints will you tolerate? So those are your assessment of your risks, and from that you have a risk register, and from your risk register you will have certain practices, programs, metrics that you use in order to manage the risks that you have in your business. And lastly, you end with a risk management plan that you will continuously monitor and evaluate to see how effective your business is. And if I can summarize this whole slide for you in 2 words, it's about identify your risk, and it's about managing your risk. So once you know what your risk is, you make a plan around the risk, and that is your risk management plan. And therefore, looking at the people side of business is really where it starts with these particular aspects. Then the change management standard we've developed is in support of transformation efforts in business, where we say all business, in essence, it's about input, process, and output. Now, input is where you look at your organization strategy, all its processes, the leadership skills that you need to have in place, the type of change model that you can decide you want to utilize. Okay, so those inputs form the foundation of your business transformation. After that, you have clearly defined processes that deals with your strategic intent for the business, how you communicate that, your project plan, your implementation of the plan, evaluation, as well as the measurement of the impact of those particular transformation interventions that you're implementing. But bringing it back to risk, we see that you have to do an analysis of your business, analyzing the risk, look at the different need for change, the culture that perhaps you want to change in your business. You want to become more customer oriented, or you want to become more global, or you want to become more digital. Those are the things you need to focus on. Getting your communication in place, obtaining buy-in from all the right stakeholders, outlining the scope of your change, doing a risk analysis, building a roadmap or journey of where your business is going to, the different responsibilities and accountabilities of your people, building that momentum for the change process, ensuring that all parties are committed. If you start achieving successes, we celebrate those milestones, and then ultimately you give feedback to all your stakeholders on how you are implementing the changes in your organizations. And that brings you to your outputs, where surely you've got the desired end state in mind. You have a new business, a more customer-orientated business, or a global business that you are planning. So that is your ultimate vision, in state, what you want to achieve. But let's face it, we are human beings. We do make mistakes in the process, and therefore we acknowledge that we will make mistakes, but that is part of the lessons that we are learning, and we're capturing those lessons, and we build that lessons into the transformation process to ensure that next time we will do it better. Then lastly, but very importantly, probably the most important of everything, is leadership. If you don't have the right leadership in your organization, your transformation will fail. And this is the reason why we have created for us a leadership standard. And that leadership standard helps the leaders to have a clear picture about what we need to be able to do for my business to be successful. I must have a clear leadership philosophy, how I think about leadership. I must have a positive tone at the top on how to drive my business. I need to know what leadership outcomes I want to achieve in terms of a successful business transformation. And lastly, I need to have a good and positive organization culture that will drive excellence. Now, that's a broad framework of the leadership standard within 5 key steps that we feel is very important if you want to drive transformation. And step 1 is you must have a clear vision. Where do I want to go to with my business? Instilling that vision must be very clear for all people to understand. Secondly, you must deliver results which will create value for your business. Okay, so your transformation must have positive results that will make the business a better place out there. Thirdly, it's all about ethical leadership. The values of your business must be clear, and the people in the business, all managers and employees, must live the values of the business. Fourthly, I must influence my people to ensure that my vision will be realized. So people must support the transformation programs that we are implementing. And then the fifth and very important last step is we must be able to reflect for improvement and to say, what have we done well? What could we have done better? What lessons are we learning? How can we do things better as we move forward in terms of the leadership work that we're trying to implement? Okay, so as you can see, for us, I really believe that getting the people side of transformation right will make or break your transformation effort. And therefore, in concluding, I want to make the statement that companies today require major transformation first of all, to survive. I think most businesses currently are in survival mode. And if we can get through survival mode, then we can begin to perform better, and then hopefully we will also thrive and again become successful businesses, organizations, and governments out there. Not only because of, but also because of all the external factors in the environment, including the disruption that we see on a daily basis require from all of us to drive significant change. Transformation should be driven with clear standards around people factors, in particular leadership, HR risk management, organization development, and change management. I believe if we get those 4 factors right, any change management and transformation program will be effective in organizations. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Meyer. I will try to do a little summary in French. So, Dr. Marius Meyer est un professeur titulaire de l'Université de Cape Town sur des questions de leadership et human resources, management des ressources humaines. Il nous a entretenu aujourd'hui sur les questions de l'importance du leadership, de la gestion du changement, la gestion du management des risques, les standards du management des risques dans la fonction RH pour la transformation de l'organisation. Il a insisté sur un certain nombre de facteurs qui doivent être des facteurs au centre d'un processus de transformation réussi au sein de l'organisation et au sein des projets. Il y a d'abord le premier facteur, c'est le facteur humain, la valeur humaine comme un facteur clé de la transformation. Le besoin de transformation, il faut qu'il y ait un besoin de transformation qui soit, ou un objectif de transformation qui soit déjà visible au sein de l'organisation. Et après, il faut pouvoir établir un volet potentiel humain, parce que sa présentation comme un background très prononcé en termes de ressources humaines. Il y a une nécessité également d'établir des standards d'évolution en termes de RH, ressources humaines. Et puis après, identifier des risques en matière de gestion du potentiel humain, de gestion de la ressource humaine. Et puis après, développer des skills et développer des habiletés en termes de leadership pour le potentiel humain de l'organisation. Au niveau du management des risques, il faut pouvoir partir d'abord de l'identification des risques au niveau du potentiel humain, parce que au niveau actuellement au sein de l'organisation, la survie des organisations repose également sur la capacité à avoir des ressources humaines qui ne présentent pas ou qui ne font pas face à un certain nombre de risques humains au sein de l'organisation. Ça peut être des risques liés à des comportements illicites comme des risques liés à la corruption, à l'éthique. Il faut pouvoir identifier ces risques et établir des politiques de management et de maîtrise de ces risques. Et après, il faut construire un standard de gestion du changement, parce que l'une des choses sur lesquelles qui est pérenne et permanente aujourd'hui, c'est la notion de changement au sein de l'organisation. Et nous la voyons aujourd'hui avec la crise de Covid-19 qui montre que les organisations doivent désormais se préparer à la notion de changement. Il nous invite donc à savoir qu'il faut pouvoir construire son standard de gestion du changement. Il faut pouvoir établir d'abord des inputs, des données d'entrée qui sont basées sur la stratégie, les process, les connaissances, le modèle de changement de l'organisation. Et après, il faut rétablir les process, définir, par exemple, la stratégie que l'organisation va mettre en place pour la transformation de ces inputs, ces données d'entrée, à des outputs. Les outputs seront maintenant l'état désiré. Qu'est-ce que l'organisation veut établir, veut réaliser comme mission? Sa mission de survie, sa mission de croissance, sa mission de performance. Il faut donc pouvoir établir tous ces processus que l'organisation va mettre en place, s'appuyant sur sa force humaine pour pouvoir partir de ces données d'entrée et aboutir à son résultat en sortie. Et bien entendu aussi, il faut pouvoir définir des standards de leadership, parce qu'il faut que la ressource humaine ait une capacité à pouvoir transformer la matière et amener l'organisation vers un objectif en définissant un certain nombre de standards de leadership. Il faut définir la philosophie, il faut définir la raison de l'outcome, il faut définir la culture, et il faut avoir une vision d'être meilleur, une vision d'être à the top. Et en conclusion, il insiste sur le fait qu'aujourd'hui, la notion de changement est une notion qui est centrale et une notion qui oblige les organisations maintenant à travailler en plein temps et en continu, à développer des paramètres qui peuvent permettre à ce que l'organisation reste toujours performante, quel que soit le contexte auquel elle fait face. Aujourd'hui, on a la raison de la crise de Covid-19, mais d'autres raisons aussi qui peuvent donner déjà un argument supplémentaire aux organisations pour qu'elles construisent cette modélisation pour rester performantes dans leur segment de marché. Donc, globalement, c'est ce sur quoi le docteur Meyer nous a entretenu. On reviendra plus en détail pour réinsister sur un certain nombre de points lors de la phase questions-réponses pour mieux nous édifier. Maintenant, Mr. Simu, I will give you the floor to also try to, in 15 minutes, to also try to present your view on this topic of successful management of transformation projects and organization, and how you think organization and professionals can better handle the issue they face in their different organizations.
Thank you, Thierry. I hope everybody can hear me and let me know if that's not the case.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Thierry, for this opportunity to talk to you people, and I understand there's a lot of colleagues joining from around the world, and thank you, Dr. Mayer, to bring this light to this subject as well. Very important. Yeah, people is the center. So a little bit of myself. My name is Simu Siddiq. I'm actually around 15 years plus in the digital transformation and transformation space. Working in different hats. I've been working as a technical support, business analyst, operational leadership, project management, IT management, transformation, change management. So this has been the journey, and it's still continuing. I'm still learning. Everybody is learning. COVID is a learning for every one of us, right? So something similar. Worked with major companies like Alchemist, GE, Veolia Water. We have the company I worked for. They had a strong presence in Africa, so I had a lot of colleagues who. It's a French-based company, and a lot of colleagues over there in your continent as well. Currently, I'm with Philips, working as the transformation and program manager expert for the Middle East and Turkey region. So that's a summary about myself. So coming to the topic, I thought, okay, let me give my view of how I see the transformation from on that angle. Yeah. So to take a practical example, I'm not sure how many of you have seen the movie called Transformers. Yeah, people with at least teenagers as sons and cousins and everybody, they would have heard about at least about this movie. So if you look at transformation from an analogy perspective or from an example perspective, what does transformation mean? Yeah. So I'm just thinking, okay, what does the car can do? So end of the day, in the movie as they show, right, it can transform to something like a robot, right? So it's from a car being looking cool and taking you from point A to point B, you can actually be something which is autonomous, can talk and fly, beat the bad guys and much more. And all of this happens with agility, all happens with no time. And oops, am I visible? Yeah. So it happens with no time. And if you look at organizations today organizations are in that process of they all aspire, and I would aspires to be the transformers. They all want to be this autonomous robot which can seamlessly change from one to another depending on the situation and the culture and what's happening around them. Yeah. And everybody aspires, not everybody is successful, right? So that's where to get it right is an art and skill. So if you look at the way I look at the space I work is the digital transformation. In digital transformation, what are the things that makes it actually a successful one? So people think it's technology, but I believe in something called the golden triangle, which is like the people, the process, and the technology. You can have all of these. It cannot be in silos. It should be working in harmony, as Dr. Mayer was saying earlier as well. As a company, you need to have the right people. You used to use the right technology and right process. You can have the best technology in the world, but nobody will use it. The people won't use it. That has happened, and that again leads to failure, right? You can have the best processes in the world. Again, if the people is not following and the technology doesn't support that process, you will end up in failure. So it's a amalgamation of everything, so that you reach the right spot of being the win-win situation. and you become a part of a successful transformation journey. So every transformation journey, there is, these three components that has to work in harmony, yeah, to become successful. Again, in digital transformation, people think it's technology, but I always say that it's technology enabled. It's not technology. It's more like technology enabled. And as the Dr. Mayor was saying earlier as well, if I have to pick one of these quadrants, it will be the people. Yeah, it will be the people who we need to pick, and make sure that they are onboarded for the technology and for the process. So let's look at a bit more deeper on the people axis. Yeah, the way I see it. So successful transformation from a people axis, right? So who are the people? The people are our employees, the customers, our competitors. How are we positioning them in the transformation? It's very important for the success of it. So if you look at in organizations, you have the organizations in different management level. You have the lower level of people who actually is in the lower level of hierarchy. They are high in number. They are the people who actually get the task done. They are the task masters. Yeah. You have the mid level who actually manages the lower level. They are the people responsible for the talent development, performance management, so on. And you have the top leadership who actually have to set the vision and mission and the change management and everything into place so that it can work in harmony. So in a successful transformation, we have to address these different level of people, right? It cannot be a leadership vision which is not followed by the middle and the lower level, or it's an ask from the lower level which is not, uh, accepted or bought in by the higher management. Again, in this level of people also, looking at the employees, customers, and competitors, we are dealing with different generations of people, right? We have the people who are born in the 1946 to 64, like my grandfathers, I would say. Yeah, they are more looking at wealth, health, and quality of life. Yeah, we have the X generation, which is like somewhere, if I compare myself, will be at my father's age. Yeah, then comes the generation Y, where I belong to. Then the new generation, which is born with technology. Yeah, they are born to digital technology. But then, if you look at my generation, they were grown up with technology. We have seen the transformation, the evolvement of technology. So these are our customers, these are our employees, these are our competitors, right? So we need, when you look at people access, yeah, these are very important to make sure the transformation is successful. Then again, the competition. Yeah, how are you defending your position in the competition? Yeah, it's very important. And sometimes we use transformation to be the first to move. Like an example would be an iPhone. When it was launched, it was the first phone to have the touch screen to be scaled up to a level that it can have different purposes, which disrupted the industries, right? So everybody, an organization, has to look at all these aspects and to become successful. The last one is the change management, yeah, and which is the most important as well. So this is one of the change management curve. Any new change, right? People take it as a shock or a sudden, it's an awareness. They go through different emotional roller coasters till they accept it, right? And each of these people in these quadrants have a different graph. Now, to make a successful transformation, you need to ensure that you have the right alignment. You have to maximize your communication, spark the motivation, yeah, develop the capability, share the knowledge, so that the curve, end of the day, it takes to the goal of transformation, of a successful transformation. And not every pill works for everybody, right? So then, as the gatekeepers of transformation, yeah, it's important that you understand the dynamics and ensure you adjust your strategy or the change model depending on your organization, depending on your competition and the generations that you deal with. Yeah, very important. And all this has to influence the storyline. What are you trying to sell to the people, to the employees, to your customers, to the competitors? Yeah? It's very important, and it should be an amalgamation of everything. The vision has to be in place. as Dr. May was saying, the leadership has to set it right. And the most important thing is that a transformation has to explain to the people, or they should get the message, right? What's in it for me? Yeah, as anybody in these different levels, yeah, what's in it? If the top line, are we looking at, increasing our margins, increasing our customer shares? Middle line, will it help me to manage my people better? The bottom line, will it help me in my, making my day-to-day tasks easier? Again, it's all part of the change management journey where we try to, sell these stories, which is realistic, and get the buy-in from the people and make it a successful story. So this, I wanted to be considering the time, I would like to just focus on the people aspect of it. Of course, we have, this is a quite dear and near topic to me. You can talk for hours if needed, but I think, to set the stage right, this would be, the most important quadrant to, focus on the people. And I hope it sets the stage right. And I think over to Jerry for the Q&A.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Mr. Simu, for your presentation. If I can make a little summary in French. Monsieur Simou Sidik, il est un professionnel spécialisé sur les questions de management de la transformation. Travaille actuellement depuis plusieurs années chez Philips sur les aspects pratiques liés à la transformation. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Quels sont les déterminants de la transformation? Il a essayé de commencer son propos en établissant d'abord le triangle du management process de l'entreprise qui est lié, qui intègre le potentiel humain, qui fait le travail, qui exécute le travail, la technologie, qui aide la ressource humaine à réaliser le travail à faire, et les process qui permettent à ce que les tâches qui doivent être exécutées soient exécutées, qui organisent. Une organisation donc qui veut réussir sa mission d'une manière avec un succès doit pouvoir manager autant que possible ces trois composants qui sont le people, les process et la technologie. Et maintenant, si on prend simplement l'angle de la ressource humaine, il faut pouvoir intégrer que la ressource humaine, elle est organisée sous forme de strates. Il y a une organisation de la ressource humaine. Il faut pouvoir intégrer la compétition. Donc, on ne va pas seulement analyser la ressource humaine en regardant seulement les pratiques internes. Il faut pratiquer et regarder également les best pratiques qui se passent au niveau des compétiteurs, des concurrents. Il faut regarder les différentes générations au sein de l'organisation, quels sont les besoins générationnels. Par exemple, les seniors n'ont pas les mêmes besoins que les juniors et ceux qui sont dans le middle. Et il faut également intégrer, comme dans la précédente présentation, la notion de gestion du changement. La notion de gestion du changement, comment adapter les besoins en fonction des âges, en fonction des progressions, des objectifs de carrière. Donc, ça, c'est l'essentiel à peu près de la présentation de M. Sidi, qui revient toujours sur le nœud que ce soit à partir de la crise Covid-19 ou bien les changements disruptifs qui surviennent au sein des organisations, la nécessité de se transformer et de changer est déjà permanente et pérenne. Et les organisations doivent pouvoir construire des modèles, que ce soit des modèles de gestion de changement et des modèles de gestion de transformation pour pouvoir s'adapter dans cette mouvance et pouvoir garantir leur survie. OK. Thanks, Dr. Meyer, Mr. Siddiqui, for these two presentations. I think now we have some questions we received from the audience. So to help us go a little bit more on each topics, I know Dr. Meyer is mostly focused, has a strong HR background, and Mr. Siddiqui, you have a lot of knowledge in processes. But so I will be asking each other questions so that you can better emphasize on how you understand it. First of all, for example, I take a question, for example, for Mr. Simou Sidik, for example. In many companies, an organization operating in a project mode with, for example, PMO, Project Portfolio Management style, or Project Management Office style, there are still a lot of difficulties, either in quality, cost, delays, in terms of perception that customers have on the service provided by the organization or the project. What can be the main reasons for these inefficiencies? What types of problem-solving approaches or tools can be suggested for continuous improvement this type of these processes? So that because we have knowledge, we have seen in a lot of organizations that maybe either the fact that they have built or they have installed a lot of processes to conduct projects in a better way, but there are still existing a lot of inefficiencies in the results. What can be the main, based on your experiences, what can be the main reasons for this type of situation, and how can we handle it? How can we overcome it? Which type of problem-solving approaches or tools can be suggested to improve this type of processes?
Yeah. So look at different kinds of projects when we manage, right? So every project has its own destiny and its own style and its own objective. Now, depending on that, you need to be adapt. Of course, you need to follow a methodology. I'm not saying that you should have a process in place, but then what we need to make sure is that what is suiting for your organization. It's very important. I just got the gist from what Mayor was saying earlier. The change model. You select a change model that is acceptable by the people of your organization. You can have 20 processes in place, but then you have to ensure, does your people have the capacity to manage it, right? So you need to adapt your project in a different way. Yeah, it's like a movie. Every movie is made in a different way, and it's a project itself, right? So you ensure that the projects, the milestones are clearly agreed with the people. That's what I do to make sure. In terms of an alignment, I said, the top management, we align with them. Okay, these are the process, the methodology that we're going to follow. These are the inputs that we expect out of the leadership, right? And this is what the people down the line, we expect them to respond to. And that is something that you need to establish upfront in the project. Yeah, and you have to improve that over the course of time as well. Now you can have multiple. You can have a PMO methodology. You can have the PMP, the PMI methodology, or the Scrum way of managing things. But in whatever the case is, maybe you take a combination of everything. But it's important to ensure the successful transition or a transformation. It's important to establish that upfront in the project, from your project charter itself, right? You make sure what is the objective, ensure it is clear to people. So these are the deliverables, the high-level deliverables, and there is a normal cadence. And as Mayor was saying the earlier time, every project we complete, there is a lessons learned session. In that session, we look at what went well and what went wrong. Yeah, and who is contributing well to the project, we reward them. So it's important when you manage with people, it's important that you reward the people. There is a kind of a motivation you create in the process. Yeah, you might have, as I said, the change curve can be different for different people. Yeah, and how do you make sure the people who are done make them up? Is that you see what are the motivating factors? Is it a reward? Is it a change of position? Is it a recognition? Yeah, and that's the job of the transformation gatekeepers, to make sure if you are deviating from processes, as you mentioned earlier, how to bring it back. Sometimes it's a leadership kick. You said, okay, we need the leader to talk. Things are not moving. So if I, in a typical steer code that I address to the CFO, what I take to the table is that what is going well, what is going wrong, and where is that we need support. And that's what we said, okay, we need to move some levers to make sure we follow the process. And that's where the leadership comes in and say that, okay, let's straighten it up. And it's a journey, yeah? It's never a straight line. So you need to correct the course as we go. Yeah. So that's what I would say. And of course, as you said, end of the project, you do the lessons learned, and that goes to your next project as continuous improvement. And that becomes your culture over the course of time.
Okay, I understand. What I noticed, I understand the fact that the project process should not be fixed just only on post-project methodologies like PMO, but they should insert a transformation methodologies, a dynamic. It should be dynamic, not just being static on different protocols. And when they are based on static protocols, they can have difficulties of moving, for example, on problem solving. How they can continuously solving problems, it can be a problem when they are fixed on static. I think a lot of organizations are fixed on statics, and they are not incorporating transformation in their agenda. Maybe it can be a major problem. Okay,
that is correct. So, it shouldn't be a tick in the box. It shouldn't be a tick in the box exercise that it's a process I need to complete. No, people should believe that process. If they are not, remove that process out. It's not going to work in your organization, right? So that's where you need to be very clear. Which one to remove, which one to keep, which one you need support to drive.
Okay, it was a little bit the same question I wanted to ask to Dr. Meyer, quite a little different also, so that more and more most management system dedicated the systemic and systematic approaches as the best framework allowing the achievement of performance objectives within an organization. You insisted, for example, in your organization, we have people, process, technology, as Mr. Simu was talking about. How can we best achieve collaboration with these various compartments within an organization? This questioning is becoming more imperative now with the COVID-19 crisis, where companies are going to more agile and speed in the execution of their mission. You have these systematic approaches where the different management system is adopting systematic approaches, systemic and systematic approaches, either be quality management system, HR management system, all are based now on systematic approaches. How can we better collaborate on these different compartment or element? It goes in line with the first question I was asking to Mr. Simu, but based on your HR background, how can you also answer to this type of question?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. The challenge is to use the systematic approach to lead your projects, and to start by saying we have to, first of all, we need to agree we have to transform. Once that decision is made, then you realize that now you need to do certain things. But even at that point, you don't have all the answers. You're starting to map the journey. And perhaps at that point, from a systematic perspective, you see there are 7 phases that we need to go through. But as you go through those 7 phases, you get stuck on phase number 5. And that's where your culture comes in, and where you realize individuals play a very important role, but also your teams. And that's why I'm very glad, Terry, that you used the word quality management, because quality management methodology, you must almost have a toolbox ready of all the different things that you can utilize when you do transformation, like quality circles that the Japanese has shown us how you do in motor manufacturing companies. So having a clear systematic approach as your philosophy is always good to drive change, but still being flexible, still being able to say, but somewhere along the line, we may even set, as Simo said, the project charter, but even the project charter, to a certain extent, as you move along the journey, may be adapted. In particular, if there is a high level of uncertainty regarding what your outcomes are going to be, because then you need to be more flexible. But building that culture of adaptability and realizing that your values also anchor you. So if you've got values of innovation, customer service, teamwork, if you anchor if your values are strong, then it's easier to navigate the paradox between systematic on the one hand and being very flexible on the other hand, because you do have changes that you need to implement. Now, if you use quality circles, those teams will meet every single day. And with my approach with leadership, I'm suggesting leaders must reflect at least once a week. Do a serious reflection on how effective have we been this week? What worked this week? What did not work? We thought we were going to do it this way, but perhaps we should not have done it like this. Let's just change our approach or style. Or we forgot to consult a certain stakeholder. Let's reach out to that particular stakeholder as we go on. So balancing systematic with the more flexible collaborative approach to almost co-design the journey as you embark on your roadmap.
OK. A little summary in French. Pour nos auditeurs francophones, la première série de questions était posée à M. Simou d'abord, de savoir que dans la plupart de nos organisations qui opèrent en mode projet, avec généralement des PMO, des portfolio management installés ou des project management installés, on continue de noter des déficits en termes de qualité, de coût, des délais au niveau des clients, de la perception des clients sur le service rendu. Maintenant, comment est-ce qu'on peut, quelles sont les principales raisons de ces inefficiences ou les méthodes de résolution des problèmes ou outils qu'on peut suggérer? Donc, M. Simon revenait sur le fait que, certes, on peut avoir cette structure, cette charte de projet basée sur des méthodologies certifiées comme PMP ou d'autres. Maintenant, il ne faut pas toujours se limiter simplement à ce cadrage méthodologique. Il faut pouvoir savoir que cela est dynamique. Pour pouvoir avoir des résultats, il faut mettre en place un processus de transformation au sein de l'organisation qui sera dynamique, qui va permettre à ce que les éléments, par exemple, de cette charte projet qui viennent, par exemple, d'un PMO qui est mis en place, que l'on puisse l'adapter et mettre en place des programmes de gestion, de problem solving, de résolution des problèmes quand les problèmes se présentent. Donc, il faut réfléchir au-delà, comme on dit, think out of the box, ne peut pas être refermé seulement sur son cadrage méthodologique, mais savoir toujours anticiper sur les défauts. Et le docteur Meyer, la question qui a été posée était sur les différents systèmes de management. Actuellement, l'approche systémique et systématique est carrément et généralement admise et acceptée sur la plupart des systèmes de management. Maintenant, la question était donc de savoir comment, avec cette disruption qui arrive déjà avec la crise de Covid, comment est-ce que les organisations doivent pouvoir naviguer sur ces différents triptyques ressources humaines, process, technologie pour rester compétitifs. Lui également est revenu sur le fait qu'il faut pouvoir sortir de sa zone de confort et il faut pouvoir intégrer toujours des méthodologies, mettre la collaboration, optimiser les mécanismes de collaboration entre les différents composants, ne pas seulement s'arboter sur les cadrages systémiques définis par les normes. Maintenant, avec la crise, avec la notion de changement, avec la notion de transformation, il va falloir être en permanence dynamique, parfois sortir de ces zones de confort. Now, I have another question for Mr. Simon about the digital transformation. So a lot focus on it. The digital transformation has shaken up all operational processes in recent years, and this is more acutely felt in this period of COVID-19. As we begin to emerge from the crisis, what will be the priorities? And how far can we go in terms of digitization, taking into account that the digital transformation will induce mindset changes affecting all economics and social sectors? For example, in many parts of the world, for example, they are thinking faster. They are thinking for example, artificial intelligence. They are thinking RPA. They are thinking OIT. They are thinking robotic process automation and so on, business process management. And they in different parts of, especially in developing countries, they are thinking less on this type of topics. Why now we are coming up from this psychological crisis due to COVID-19? What can be the priorities? Because the COVID, for example, modify the way we are seeing technology. Now, a lot of businesses have incorporated technologies. We are talking about, for example, working remotely, using social media more than before, using, for example, social distancing meetings or distancing training like we have now. A few months later, it was not common, but now it is transforming the way we are working now. What should be now, as we are moving little by little going away from the crisis, what should be the priorities? Where organizations or on what topics or what area organizations should emphasize more?
I think it's a very good question, Thierry. But what I think is that COVID-19, what it has done, it's just accelerated the thought process towards the digital transformation. Yeah, it is very important. So people, as I said, people are in the different change curves. They are sitting and they said, okay, I'm still okay. I take my conventional way of working, but then as I presented in my slide, what's in it for me when COVID-19 came? Okay, we need to have a job to survive, and to survive I need to work from home. Then that change barrier is getting lighter, and you just break it and come out, right? So this has transitioned, I would say, has become, the COVID-19 has become, if you take it in a positive note, has become the catalyst for the change for many in the different part of the curve, right? So the people who were not taking technology much seriously now will take technology much more seriously. And what will happen, and that's my assumption as well, is that the technologies like AI, where the human touch is involved, is going to transit. For example, in Philips, we are thinking about changing the way we interact with patients. Yeah, the online way of digitally helping them. Bringing artificial intelligence to identify the kind of diseases that you will get in the future. So these spaces are going to expand, and that's where the future is heading to. And one way or the other, we are all have, there is a much more broader acceptance to this topic right now, that you can't be the same car that used to take you from point A to point B. You need to have that agility to become the robot whenever you want to to have the geared up things to be done. So it's very important. And now I think there is much more acceptance in terms of the change. People now, when this crisis will end, the transformation journeys will be much more skyrocketed, and the people who are the forefront players, they will realize that okay, it's just that COVID-19 is the end, not the end of the world. We could have something more as well tomorrow, right? Now, how are we positioning ourselves in the leadership level, in the mid level, and the bottom level? It's very important. So that's where the industry is going, and everybody in this space has to think in that front. If you're not in those fronts, that means you are already out of the league, right? As people, as employees, as customers, as employers, yeah, we need to be in that space to say, okay, I need to be able to change my model in a blink of an eye. If I'm not able to do that over the course of time, either I will not be able to defend my position as in my competition, or I will lose. The example of Nokia, they were not able to translate into a much more agile organization. Yeah, I remember in my college days I used to use Nokia phone a lot. I love that phone. The moment iPhone came in, they just wave, they're becoming the number one. They went, it's nowhere now. The same way, that's where you need to know the transition. Yeah, it's happening. You can, the success of the business today is not just so you need to be agile to change, and digital transformation is the thing that will make that change, or it is one of the players that will make that change, and people has to be in that front. So that is very important, and that's how I see the future going.
It means that we should not be afraid of this transformation which is coming, and exactly. We will be accentuated. Because
one more thing to add, I would say, is that sorry, go ahead.
There is a lot of fear, for example, of job to be. There will be a lot of jobless, for example, while using a lot of work, while a lot of works will be done by machine, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you deal with that fear? So you can be the forefront player. That's how I tell the people right now, is that when you automate a process with RPA and things like that, you can be the person who is automating it. Yeah. So that's why now remember 10 years back, the jobs that we do today were not even imagined 10 years back. Yeah, and that won't be the same case in after 10 years as well. So accepting this first part of the journey, you need to accept the change, And rather than being the victim, you should be the advantage taker over there. Huh? So where you need to be the forefront of this. Okay, this is coming. Now, how do I position myself? Yeah, in any if employee, employer, whatever quadrant you are in, how are you positioning yourself? If you are going, you cannot take it that you lose job, so I should defend it, because you can't after some time. That's the reality. So what you do is that, okay, you accept it, and at the same time you look at, okay, my 10 years or 20 years of experience, how can I use that to value add to the situation of the future? That's important. And that's where all this experience that you had will count. Yeah, the experience has its own value. It doesn't go anywhere, right? The people experience will not come from machines. You can use that experience to make sure that the digital transformation hits you or the organization in a positive note. That's where in the transformation that we work is that we try to strike the balance between, okay, you're automating a process, that means you will have 10 tasks will be 5, but at the same time you have another value add task that you will add to the list. So that's where you need as a person position yourself as well. So if you see it as a threat and try to defend it, end of the day you are going to fail. A COVID-19 or something like that comes in the future, all this will go. Who are not using computers, imagine his life in these days. Yeah, he was a worker who was going to 9 to 5, coming back, not able to go online. He never used to work, a smartphone. For him, the life would have been miserable at this point of time. So you need to start transiting to a world which we are all foreseeing. Automated cars, yeah, it will not have drivers in the future. But at the same time, there are certain things that you can take from that skill and use it for the note of tomorrow. So that's how you should position, I would say, for the future.
Okay.
I think Meyer could add something to it as well.
Dr. Meyer, several sectors, in particular, for example, fintech, finance and related services, bank, finance and related services, and insurance companies have somehow succeeded in their digital transition, and they have largely benefited from this advance during this crisis. How could other sectors be inspired by it, and how to lead this transformation to success without creating more risk on the business in this time with COVID-19? We have seen that a lot of banks and insurance, because they were already prepared for going remotely, and they were less hit by the effect of the crisis. Maybe we can see that they have succeeded. At somewhere a little time, they have succeeded their transition to digital. How can the other sector learn, be inspired of it, and how to lead this transformation to success without creating more risk on the business? I was talking about, Mr. Simon just emphasized on some here, but I was talking about the fear to be jobless, and some activities will disappear because some activities will be created and other activities will also disappear. How to match all those type of criticity?
Yes, well, I think if we're really honest with ourselves, a lot of companies have been talking about digital transformation for more than 5 years, but they haven't made a lot of progress. And now when the crisis came, they were forced to change. Fortunately, those that have made progress, the IT companies and the more progressive cell phone companies and so on, the manufacturing, those banks, those companies were prepared. For them, the change was quicker. But so I think the opportunity is for all companies to take one step back and to say, but how can we leverage these opportunities? How can I upskill my workforce to be able to do these things? As Simon talks about driverless cars and Uber and all these things, I mean, the reality is the fourth industrial revolution started a few years ago, but most businesses still operated in the third industrial revolution. So the opportunity is for us to say, let us leverage what we can do. Let us upskill our staff to be able to do these things, and then to say, are there new business opportunities of reaching clients in a different ways? Because I think we're also losing out on opportunities to make your business quicker, faster, more effective, because we want to protect jobs as the first interest, but while we're trying to protect jobs, you're not upskilling your workforce, and you put a person in the same position for 40 years, a security officer, while this person could digitally manage your security operation from his home, perhaps. And I think that's where organizations and sectors like banking, insurance, manufacturing, mining needs to have critical conversations about how do we create the future work. We've managed to adapt overnight. Now the talk is, when can we go back to normal? There's no thing like going back to normal. Normal is gone. There's a new normal that we're now creating, where we now need to adapt and say, can we create, reimagine a new organization, a new workplace, a new society where we do things totally differently. I mean, if we can send rockets to Mars and the moon and all other places, but we can't upskill our workforce, then surely we're not advancing society in the process. And I think that's where we need to think perhaps a little bit more differently and creatively about how can we leverage the opportunities while managing obvious risks that we will find. I mean, cybercrime, for instance, hacking of computer systems will also increase. So there we need to firm up on risk, but leveraging that opportunity, really creating a new world of work, a new organization, and a new society. I think that is the major opportunity for us to go forward.
OK, thank you pour nos auditeurs francophones. La question qui était posée à nos deux panélistes était de savoir les opportunités et les menaces que présente la digitalisation ou la transformation digitale qui a été initiée déjà il y a un certain nombre d'années et qui va s'accentuer maintenant avec la période post-Covid-19. On le voit actuellement où un grand nombre d'actions ou bien d'initiatives sont menées maintenant en distanciel par rapport au présentiel. On voit par exemple une conférence comme celle-ci où il y a des actions de formation, il y a des missions de travail par exemple qui s'effectuent de plus en plus en distanciel. Ça, c'est un exemple. Beaucoup d'autres activités vont se digitaliser davantage. On voit dans certaines parties du monde où on parle beaucoup plus d'intelligence artificielle, de RPA, d'intelligence des objets, ainsi de suite. Maintenant, les réponses, les deux étaient généralement de dire qu'il faut ne pas être trop focalisé sur les menaces, sur les peurs, et savoir également que toute transformation amène également des opportunités. Et il faut investir sur la compréhension des opportunités, sur le renforcement des capacités de son potentiel humain, de son capital humain, pour être capable de gérer ces opportunités, de transformer ces opportunités-là en valeur ajoutée. Et également, nous devons collectivement réfléchir sur l'organisation de demain, l'organisation du futur. Comment souhaitons-nous, voulons-nous qu'elle fonctionne pour de manière à ce que nous restons toujours, les organisations restent toujours sur le marché et compétitives. Now, another question, Mr. Simon. In the operational management of projects now, managers spend a lot of time in the different stages of the projects, be it in the project ideation, engineering, development, or the acceptance phase. Very generally, the time initially allocated is largely exceeded. Are there any tools, innovative approaches, or appropriate software to recommend on how to optimize the management of time and resources on each of the components of the project to remain competitive? Because we are seeing a lot of projects unsuccessful. In my previous note, I was talking about around 70% of projects unsuccessful due for exceeding of time delay or non-quality attendance. So what suggestions or advices or recommendation you can do to managers or project managers on how to better organize their project, even the conformity on the process, on requirement to have project success?
Yeah, to answer your very good question, Thierry, but then there is a magic pill for that. Yeah, if that was there, we would have polished it and taken it once 3 times a day, that pill. Yeah, but what I would say is that there are tools now, and the industry is maturing. So there are tools like Monday.com and all those, Monday.com, Asana, all those tools helps to have your task management done in a much more structured way. It gives you nice dashboards. The only thing that you need to do, I would say, is that as a person who is steering the project, or program managing the projects, is that you build that milestones, and you ensure there is a check done on that milestone. So what, as I said, when we start off a project, we have that milestone set. Okay, these are the milestones where we have sign-offs, we have leadership alignment, where we have people celebrations. Yeah, that those are all important. So we put that milestone, and that's the point you check. And as a person who is orchestrating, who always has to have that vision board in front of you, saying that, okay, where are my project heading? Yeah, as Mayor was saying, the risk register. Now, tools helps you to manage those risks much more in prioritizing the risk based on your organization, right? And that's like a one-pager that you always have to have in your mind or in a dashboard that you need to visually look on a daily basis to see that course correct as you go. So it's important to have that. The tools, as I said, there are multiple tools out there, Excel being the basic one that you can use, but there are tools like Monday.com and Asanas, and there are many of that kind of tools that you can amalgamate your methodology into it, and the process. The key to having a successful project which has quality is that what are your critical success factors? You need to define that. Now, when you say quality, what are the 3 things of quality that I should meet? And that becomes your milestone, and you have to follow up on that milestone, right? If you are not having the time, what I do is that if I think, okay, you need to have that planning done, and adjust your plan accordingly all the time. When you look at the dashboard, you see that, okay, you might run out of time. So what is that I need to do to fix it? Do I need to have more resource? Do I need more money? Do I need to hire somebody? Yeah, those things has to be in your radar all the time. The risk register that Dr. Mayer was saying, that those kind of things has to be in your front line all the time. Then only you can manage the triple constraint, the time, the quality, the budget, right? These things always should be in your timeline, and you should be constantly monitoring that as you progress through the project. It's very important.
Okay. A question, Dr. Mayer. Currently, when we talk about organizational performance, we are increasingly talking about strengthening a human capital and its central place in the process of organization performance. How should companies go about developing human capital? How to combine the financial profitability objectives with the need for capacity building to achieve sustainable performance? In regard to your great HR background and your experience in the South Africa Board for People Practice, which model do you recommend to corporation? Because now a lot of are talking about human resources business performance. What is it about? What are your thoughts about this concept?
Yes, that is so important to focus primarily on getting performance improvement at the center of your business. The moment companies realize that performance improvement is the thing that takes your business from where you now is to where you need to go in future. But that will not happen without human capital. And therefore, it is absolutely key to have a clear focus on your people development, getting the right talent in, developing that talent, and retaining that talent. Because you may have fantastic talent today, tomorrow they leave, your business goes down. So having that total HR strategy for your business, people strategy, focusing on the development of your people will be so important, and then start doing measurements around it. Measure the ROI on the training investment you have on your employees. Measuring the cost of accidents in the factory and reducing those accidents will give you a financial figure on how you're improving your business. So I think also it's important to get the people side and the business performance and the financial side also better integrated. So ultimately that your human capital is as value to your business. Human capital is the only resource that you have that is appreciating. In other words, it can become stronger, it can become better, it can become more. And that's why it is so important to really focus on talent with a clear talent strategy, driving your business performance with the right type of behaviors and the positive culture that will ensure that your business becomes more effective. Okay, I know the International Integrated Reporting Council talks about the 6 capitals, and in the past we focused a lot about the other 5, and the one we have neglected was the human capital. But over the last 3 years, they've now realized that we really need to get the human capital side of your business right. So asking yourself the question continuously: do I have the right people? Do they have the right skills? Do they sit in the right teams? Do they need to increase and improve their qualifications? Becomes critical discussions in your management teams to ensure that you really build and leverage that human capital for business success, and do measurements around it. If you take something like employee wellness, sometimes think employee wellness is a soft issue, but if you go and measure the ROI on employee wellness, it's as high as 600%. For every dollar or euro that you spend on employee wellness, you bring back €6 or $6 for your business. That is the hard business human capital result of investing in your people. And I think those type of conversations we need in board for management and teams and boards to realize that you have to leverage your human capital for increased business performance.
Okay, and of course, this topic of great concern can be well understood for bigger companies like multinationals or big companies. But what about the small and medium-sized enterprises? Can they understand that it's necessary to invest in human capital? Or can they have a comeback of the investment?
It's even the smaller your business, the more important it is, because a big company with 1,000 or 10 people can afford to have 10 people sick on a day or 10 people absent. A company with only 20 people cannot afford to have 10 people absent. So I would really like to encourage, I know smaller and medium-sized companies do not always have the resources to be able to do this, but that's why it's so important for them to also to think more creatively about how to use human capital. How can they bring in consultants? How can they bring in experts or part-time expertise who can help them to still achieve that success without necessarily having an HR manager? And I think those are the type of critical discussions that people in medium-sized companies also need to determine, because your business risk, your people risk for small business, is much bigger than big business.
Okay, I understand. Okay, now because we have exceeded now the time, we will conclude. Final questions. I will ask to you the same questions. Everybody will. I will start with Mr. Simon. In his articles entitled "The 3 Pillars of Project Management Excellence," Deltec, a US-based consulting firm, is assuming that to be successful in managing a transformation project towards excellence, a project should have these 3 components in place. Build a strong and effective project managers. The project manager knowing the work, knowing the scope, knowing the requirement, knowing financial aspects, and so on. Build a successful environment, an environment with transparency, communication, a lot of details in the environment, good communication, and so on. And build a strong accountability in the process. Everybody should be, every compartment of the project, either be the sponsor, the project manager, the different subcontractor, being accountable of their different responsibilities. What are your thoughts about this architecture? I don't think it is sufficient to describe how a project or an organization can succeed in achieving its mission or in attaining its objectives. Mr. Simon.
Yeah, I think you touched on the key points. Yes, of course. Yeah. All this are important, and what is more important is that the buy-in, right? The buy-in from the people is important. So the communication-wise, yeah, it's very important that you sell the story. If you remember, then in my slide, I said, what is the storyline that you're selling? It's very important. Yeah. So what are you selling to the leadership? Yeah, the leadership, do they buy into the story? There are projects that I have executed where the leader says that it's important, yeah, but then it doesn't have, doesn't have the fire in his belly to actually make it sustainable, right? So then he will prioritize something else. So that will lead to this failure. So you can have a good project manager in place, you can have all the communications in place, but the people buy-in is very important, I would say. So that is the primary focus that you need to have. You need to bring. Yeah, sometimes it's not there. Most of the time, it's not there. So you need to build, and that is something that comes from a top-down approach. The leadership is something that you need to first fix. Then you come to the second layer. Then you come to the third layer. Then that's your storyline. You build it from the top. Yeah? Show the figures that the digital transformation will bring, and what will it do, what will not do, and ensure that is communicated down the line effectively. Yeah? Then it becomes a good playground for a proper project manager to manage it well. And that is what you need to do over the course of a project. Yeah. So yes, as you said, these pillars are important. Then again, the alignment of these things is very important. I would say that is the pillar, or say that is the base of these all pillars. Huh? I would say the foundation on which you have to build all these pillars.
Okay.
If I yeah.
Dr. Meyer?
I agree fully with that. I will just rephrase it slightly. I will say, for me, if I have to rephrase that, I would say for me it's about the 4 C's. First of all, culture. Get the culture right, which is what, in essence, what Simo says is leadership. Secondly, creativity. Really unleash the power of your people to be creative, to come up with solutions, because those are the people who know what the real problems are, the people who work on ground. Thirdly, giving them the skills, that's just the C for competence. And then fourthly, letting them work in teams, and that for me is collaboration. So culture, competence, collaboration, creativity is in essence those 3 things in a different format that I remember.
Exactly.
And it works in business. It really works.
It works.
Okay. But I have a final question that just come in my mind about the role of transformation manager or transformation guy in the company. Is it necessary to talk about this position in the company, a guy there just focused on transformation? If yes, what should be his role? Because I'm seeing it in some companies, but other companies maybe they would like to understand what is the scope of this role, and why is it necessary to have a guy only focused on transformation, a transformation expert. Example, for example, like Mr. Simu, a transformation manager. What is the reason of this position?
Yeah, if you ask me, the reason for such a position is to, you are the storyteller. If I look at it in that way, you are the person who is going to sell that story of the transformation to the people, right? When you look at different layers of organization, you need to understand what will be accepted, or what will be the buy-in from the people, and you need to adjust the story according to that. Yeah, not every message is for every people, right? So the role of the transformation manager is not to make sure the transformation happens. You have to make sure that everybody gets it. So that's where it's important. And if you see historically, the projects of digital transformation or whatever transformation that people were doing, is that there was nobody to actually do that temperature check to see that, okay, how is it going? Is the leadership responding well to the transformation? Is the middle management, excited about it? If not, why? And what we can do to make that, brought that back into the picture. So you have a current state, you have a transition state, and you have a future state, right? The job of the transformation manager is to ensure the transition is smoother and it's less time to transition to the future, right? So that's where you use all your communication, all your skill set in place to ensure that transition space is much more lesser to your future, because everybody wants to be in the future. So and you need to use these triggers. For example, you take COVID-19. That happened. Many people transited very fast because they had a clear purpose to it, right? You don't need a transformation manager over there, because if that is not there, then it cannot happen. So you cannot work. Then you move. So the purpose is very clear. Some transformation is not clear, or it will take time. You can still work in the old way of working. So that's when you need people to move from the old way to the new way, right? So that is the role of a transformation manager, and that is the key role to make it successful. You cannot bring a technology integrator and just put a technology in place and it will work tomorrow. As I said, the people has to use the technology. They have to follow the process. Now, the transformation manager is the link who makes that three triangles join together and work. So that's why this is becoming more critical in these times, especially.
Okay. Dr. Meyer, something to add?
Yes, the transformation manager is key. I think the problem with most companies all over the world is the silos we have. The marketing people, the finance people, the production people, and so on. The transformation is a cross-functional change management professional who can navigate, walk around these silos, integrate the loose links, ensure there's alignment, ensure that transformation happens, because your skill set is so wide. You're a project manager, you're a psychologist, you're a product specialist, you're a technology specialist, and that's why the transformation manager is absolutely key to make a success. And we cannot have unprofessional people trying to do this. It must be a full-time person who thinks, eats, and sleeps transformation every single day. That's when you get successful transformation. Like Simu, I think he's a good example of someone who has that skill to navigate these changes.
I would say it comes with time and patience. You know, you need to. People is the most mysterious thing in the world, and to manage people, you develop it over there. That's why I said, 15 years and still learning. You
Exactly.
might not succeed all the time.
Exactly. No, but you're doing well. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. A final word, Dr. Meyer.
The final word for me is transformation. It's a journey. The journey starts somewhere, it ends somewhere, but you don't know exactly how that is going to look. Get on that journey and be committed to make it work. Liaise with the stakeholders, put in place your projects, ensure that you drive the process of transformation. Transformation does not happen automatically. You need to drive, navigate, and ensure that you pull it through successfully with all your people and stakeholders at the end.
Okay. Mr. Simu, your final word?
Yeah, I'll just add to what Dr. Meyer was saying, that, in many of the transformations, you might not see the end tunnel. So I always give the example of driving a car in the night. Yeah, you can only see around 10 feet. And with that, you drive around to, hundreds of kilometers. So make sure, if you are unclear, don't be scared. It is something that you need to use to. Change is something in the world that you cannot change is change. Change cannot stop. It keeps on changing, right? So you just have to make sure that your next 10 feet is clear to you. Then you take the next 10 feet. When you complete that 10 feet, then you look for the 10 feet. Then the moment you say, okay, it's not clear to me the end goal, you stop there. That means you either will be wiped out or become obsolete. The fear that you feared will become the truth. So don't wait for that. Take that step of the 10 feet and move that 10 feet. Find out your next 10 feet, and it's like life. It's a journey you take, and you never know what will happen tomorrow. So you just plan for today and prepare for tomorrow. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are now at the end of our 1 hour and 30 minutes webinars of our series, the second edition, focused on successful management of transformation projects with our two case speakers, Mr. Simo Sidiki and Dr. Marius Meyer from Cape Town in South Africa. Mr. Sidiki is from United Arab Emirates. So we have, thank you, you two, for your kind presentation and additional explanation to better understand this hot topic, because it's another hot topic of transformation projects, successful management of transformation projects. I know that this is a hot topic now, as a lot of organizations are focused on how they can better overcome with this crisis time. They can better think about their future, and they can better think about the future state of their business, and they can better survive, because I know a lot of sectors like tourism, like aviation, and a lot of tech sectors are very heated at this crisis time, and a lot of other sectors are rethinking their business process. A lot of others are working on their risk management matrix, and their barriers on how they can better prepare to better handle future crises. And those type of topics can give them a lot of advices and a lot of great insight on better build their operational processes. So I thank you very much for the time you took to prepare and to speak at this second webinar series. So I will just do a little conclusion in French. Bien, nous sommes arrivés au terme de notre deuxième webinaire d'une heure et demie consacré au management et au succès des projets de transformation. Nous remercions nos deux intervenants, Dr. Marius Meyer de Cape Town en Afrique du Sud et M. Simo Sidiki de Émirats Arabes Unis qui travaille chez Philips comme expert transformation. Ils nous ont entretenu sur un certain nombre de sujets et d'aspects sur comment les organisations peuvent mieux s'armer et mieux construire leur modélisation et leur modèle pour faire face aux crises comme celle de Covid-19 actuelle, ou bien mieux conduire le processus de disruption et de changement auquel les organisations font face déjà depuis quelques années avec la transformation digitale, et plus actuellement encore avec cette étape l'étape du passage de la Covid-19. Comment mieux se réinventer pour certaines, comment mieux réadapter leur business model pour d'autres, pour mieux rebondir pour le futur et avoir des organisations toujours profitables et durablement rentables. Donc nous remercions tous ceux qui ont pris un peu du temps, déjà nos speakers, pour le temps de préparation, le temps d'intervention, et aussi tous ceux qui ont pu participer, ou pour d'autres qui n'ont pas pu être connectés, qui verront la rediffusion en live disponible sur notre page YouTube. Nous vous remercions tous et nous vous disons à bientôt pour la prochaine édition de notre série de webinaires. Okay, thank you too, and hope having you for another collaboration of our future activities. We thank you once more for the time you took together with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you very much, Terry.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.